Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Some are strong, some are fast, some are clever, and some are just lucky. Railroad history has its fair share of heroes too, from Jesus Garcia to Casey Jones, but not all railway heroes drove locomotives or even worked for the railroads. Some were just brave people in the right place at the right time. Born in 1863, Catherine Carroll Shelley, or Kate as she preferred, was the daughter of Michael and Margaret Shelley, an Irish couple from the County Offaly. At 1.5 years old, Kate Shelley and her family immigrated to the US, changing their names from Shelley to Shelley with an E, and ended up settling in Boone County, Iowa, near Honey Creek. Michael and Margaret had 4 more children: James, Mamie, Margaret, and John, and as such, Michael got a job as a section crew foreman for the Chicago and Northwestern Railway to support them, while the rest of the family tended to the farm they resided on. It unfortunately wasn't an easy life for the Shelleys. In 1878, Michael fell ill with tuberculosis and passed away later that year, leaving the family struggling for money. A few months later, at only 10 years old, James drowned in the Des Moines River, leaving the family heartbroken. By 1880, Margaret's health began to decline, effectively leaving Kate in charge of the whole family, causing her to miss out on her education as she tended to the farm, hunted, and looked after her siblings. Things were hard for a while, until the night of Wednesday the 6th of July, 1881. It had been wet and rainy for a few days now, causing the water in Honey Creek to rise, and that night a fierce storm had arrived, turning the stream of the creek into a raging torrent. Kate, now 17, had gone to the barn to let the animals out so that they could find high ground safe from the water, and return to the house. The Shelley household was located close to the trestle railway bridge that crossed Honey Creek, and the state of the river made both Kate and her mother anxious for the bridge's safety. The railway seemed to have its concerns too, and as such sent a lone pusher locomotive from Moingona Station to Boone to make sure the rails were safe. Aboard were 4 men: Ed Wood, George Olmsted, Adam Agar, and Patrick Donahue. Despite the Des Moines River roaring and raging, the engine managed to cross it just fine. However, when it arrived at Honey Creek, it found trouble. It was 11 p.m. when came what Kate described as, quote, the horrible crash and fierce hissing of steam. It was clear something bad had happened, and so Kate, wearing an old dress, put on a tattered overcoat and straw hat, grabbed her father's lamp, and rushed to the bridge. There she found the trestle had collapsed, with the engine having dropped 25 feet into the creek below. Agar and Wood were clinging on to tree branches in the water, the other 2 men nowhere to be seen. It was a horrible mess, but worse was yet to come. Thanks to her dad's work and living so close to the railway, Kate knew an express bound for Chicago would be arriving soon. If it wasn't stopped, it would also plunge into the creek, likely killing many of the passengers aboard. Realizing what was at stake, Kate knew she had to do something, and so she set off towards Moingona Station. Luckily, she didn't have to cross the creek to get there, but she did have to cross the Des Moines River, and the only way across was the Des Moines River Rail Bridge. As she approached, clutching the lantern, Kate came across her first obstacle, climbing the 30-foot muddy embankment to get to the tracks. It was a struggle, but she finally made it up, only to be met with a much greater challenge: the Des Moines River Bridge. Spanning 671 feet in length, the bridge was dangerous to traverse on foot. To prevent trespassing or for people to try and cross it themselves, the railway had removed most floorboards, leaving big gaps between the rail ties, each about a yard apart. Crossing would be bad enough on its own, but now the rails were wet from the rain, strong winds made it difficult to balance, the river swelled and raced below, and to make matters worse, the lantern had gone out. Determined, Kate began the slow, painful trip. After taking a few steps, it soon became apparent that walking across wouldn't be an option, especially with the wind, and so Kate steadily began to crawl across the bridge instead. The slippery wet rails would have been freezing to the touch, and the wooden ties snagged at her clothes, burying splinters in her hands and shins. Her clothes would have been soaked through, only making the cold bite of the wind worse, but she had to hold on or else she'd fall into the raging river below, the same river that claimed the life of her brother. On and on she crawled, praying that another train wouldn't come barreling towards her, the only light she had to guide her being the occasional flashes of lightning that lit up the sky. It took all of her effort, grit, and determination, but finally she made it to the other side. Her mission wasn't over, however. She still had to reach the station that was 2 miles away, but far from a challenge compared to the bridge. Sprinting through the rain and along the line, Kate made her way when she finally arrived at Moingona Station, soaked, splintered, and exhausted. She managed to shout out a warning about the bridge to a member of staff and to stop the express before collapsing. Most staff paid little mind to the warning, but since the station master knew the Shelley family well, he knew something was seriously wrong for Kate to be there, and so he sent a message ahead ordering the train to stop. She awoke shortly afterwards, and the station master informed her the express had been stopped, and a rescue party was being put together to save the crew of the engine that had fallen in the creek. She insisted on going with them, and when they arrived at Honey Creek, she helped lead them to Agar and Wood, who were still clinging on to their tree branches. Both men were saved, however Olmsted and Donahue were lost to the flood. News of Shelley's heroism spread like wildfire, and after recovering from that taxing evening, she was met with many tokens of appreciation. The passengers of the express pulled together a few $100s as thanks. The state of Iowa gave her $100 and a medal, along with another medal from the Little Girls of Dubuque, a gold watch and chain from the Order of Railway Conductors, and the Chicago and Northwestern Railway presented her with $100, a half barrel of flour, half a load of coal, and a lifetime rail pass. On top of all that, poems and songs were written in her honor up and down the country, helping spread her name and good deed all over the world. Money was also put forward to fund her education, and Kate took the opportunity to attend Simpson College. She tried her hand at being a teacher, but found it wasn't her calling. When the Shelleys were at risk of losing their house in 1890, more donations came in to help cover the mortgage and keep the family going. The Chicago and Northwestern Railway had offered Kate a job as thanks, and in 1903 she finally took them up on the offer, becoming a station agent at Moingona. Despite having the interest of many men, Kate never married, remaining with her mother since their home was close to Moingona Station. Kate tragically fell ill in 1910 and eventually passed away on the 12th of January 1912, aged 48. Interestingly, her gravestone marks that she was born in 1865, not 1863, often leading to people saying she was just 15 when she pulled off a heroic feat. Since then, she's been remembered and honoured in many ways. The Chicago and Northwestern Railway ran a streamlined passenger service in 1955 called the Kate Shelley 400, but the name was dropped in 1963. They also built a new steel bridge over the Des Moines River in 1901, officially naming it the Boone Viaduct, but locals took to calling it the Kate Shelley High Bridge. And so in 2009, when the Union Pacific built a second viaduct next to the original, they officially named the new one the New Kate Shelley Bridge. Let the story of Kate Shelley then remind us that the real heroes aren't super rich or have superpowers. Real heroes are just everyday folks like you or me who are brave enough to do the right thing, no matter what it takes. Subscribe for more.